people said.
We're past our time to start. Dave ain't here, so we'll start without him. Let's see, we do have a quorum. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here.
I know it is.
Okay. We'll let Rhonda get set up a little bit.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Roll call. Can I have a roll
I hope
call?
so. Okay.
He is.
Mr. Hall,
Here.
Mr. Sheila, Mr. Bakley,
Here.
Mr. Dixon,
He's here.
Mr. Artisan,
Here.
Mr. Carter,
Here.
Mr. Holsinger, Mr. Postles, Ms. Smith.
We got 5.
Oh, yes, we have a roll call, or we have a quorum.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome everybody. Can I have a motion for the approval of the minutes for the November, December meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Okay.
Thank you, sorry.
And Pat, I guess you seconded.
No,
No.
Larry
Pat.
did. Larry.
Okay. All right. Is there any public here?
Carol.
Do you have any comments?
I
You do, but
For
no.
property.
Okay. Okay, moving right ahead then. I guess, Kenzie, you got all these, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So number 4 on your agenda is for 415 Orchard Associates LLC. This is a proposed quick service drive-through, 3,300 square feet with associated parking, landscaping, and drainage improvements. This is located this is like the Big Lots Plaza off of Orchard Avenue, and this is Plank Road here. So this is Big Lots, Eaton Park, and then this is the proposed location for this drive-through.
What restaurant are we getting? We
We
don't
do not know. It is a mystery.
It's just gotta be a fast food place, right?
Yes, proposed
Okay.
quick service drive-through is what we know.
Okay.
So this is the
What I like.
proposed 3,300 square foot building. Bi-directional entry this way, or through all entrances. This one is onto Sterling Street, and this one is onto Orchard Avenue. 2 drive-through lanes are proposed here. I guess I can just read the letter. The site is a former development site. It has remnants of paved surface, but is otherwise vacant, surrounded on all sides by small to large scale suburban commercial development, except to the northeast where there's a small island of residential development. Access to the site is provided by an interior drive lane on Orchard Plaza leading to the main access driveway off of Orchard Avenue at a signalized intersection. No sidewalks or bike lanes that were proposed at the site, and none that are included in the surrounding area. Existing regulations, so Logan Township does have zoning and saldo, as well as stormwater management ordinances that are applicable to the proposed development. The regulations addressed off-street parking, traffic impact, riparian buffers, screening, landscape lighting, sidewalks, street trees, and stormwater management. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan. However, the consultants did have a couple of comments that were included with the letter. That the development must provide off-street parking spaces in accordance with the township zoning ordinance. Of note that the 7 parking spaces in the front of the proposed building will be accessed from an interior travel lane in the plaza and not a parking aisle. So that is, I believe, these right here. Or no, these 7 right here. are accessed from this interior travel lane.
Excuse me.
And it says that it meets zoning requirements, but could cause conflicts as vehicles pull back out onto the spaces directly from the interior travel lane.
So that's the front end over there to the right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the front entrance of the building here,
So
I
it's-
believe.
It has sit-in, people can go in, sit and eat.
I believe so, 3,300 square feet.
Yeah.
Sounds like they'll be able to have dine-in. The township subdivision and land development ordinance requires sidewalks with all land developments, and none are proposed here. The argument can be made that the provision of sidewalks is important for the long-term improvement of connectivity to the area, as well as it being consistent with other developments that are in that area that are pretty significant, like that Denny's, the plaza that's across the street, which has Denny's, Starbucks, a couple of, I think the Weiss is over there, Dunham's, that's like a big plaza that's right across the street there. So I think including sidewalks here, especially with a residential neighborhood so close, is a really important recommendation to make. The development will not increase any impervious surface, and such in accord with the township ordinance. No stormwater management best practices are proposed, or best management practices are proposed. The site does include new drainage facilities that connect to the existing stormwater system. The development is relying on the existing lighting of the plaza parking lot. It does propose 3 new lights, which do, if proposed, will meet the subdivision, land development, and zoning ordinances and cause minimal spillage and impact onto the surrounding properties. The landscaping plan that is proposed does include, as you can see from here, a variety of trees and shrubs, as well as a nice screening buffer here to the residential neighborhood that it abuts. I had no additional comments on this review other than what the consultant had originally pointed out, which is these parking spots here that were conflicting with this drive aisle. Other than that,
Where would the sidewalks actually go if they did put sidewalks in?
So there are no sidewalks that are proposed. This area here is Orchard Avenue, which that is the main road that comes off of Plank Road. This is where they propose to include them along here.
Okay. All right.
No, it is a shame that, they have to put additional parking or put parking in this lot when the whole entire
It's a parking
is
lot.
empty.
Yeah.
It's always empty.
That's actually a great comment to
I mean,
include.
I don't know if they can share that, if Orchard Plaza would give up some, I mean, it'd be nicer if they had more green space, more trees and planting and just, shared that parking lot. That'd be a suggestion, but
Yeah, but people would have to walk then.
on that walking, they don't want people walking.
Might be good for them, right? Yeah, that'd be good for them. All right. Are there any other comments? All right. If there, I guess we can do I have a motion to approve the staff actions for item 4 of the agenda?
Where's the pickup window, just out of curiosity? Is that the last car? on
The
line?
last call.
Yes, right here.
They're optimistic. They got two through lanes. Or
Yeah. Well, this is the bypass. These
There's a
are 2
bypass,
lanes
one
that come to one right here. Just like you mentioned, Walt, at McDonald's. Actually, you're exactly right. 2 that come into one, and then just one window. It looks like here.
Well, there is a bypass lane around the outside.
Yeah,
of that,
one
too.
bypass lane that goes the whole way around.
But there's no they don't put an access off of that onto Orchard. Okay, all right. If there are no further questions or comments, do I have a motion to approve the staff actions for item 4 of the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. I hope it's something I like.
Me too. That's my thoughts.
Originally in the paper, it said it was
Trying
gonna
to squeeze
be,
a lot of pig in the
green
boat.
bean was going
Green bean.
Huh.
there. And that design is very similar to theirs they have down at 7th Street.
Huh, okay.
Then the last article in the paper said they bailed out.
Oh.
Just put
We
the
can-
new
no, it's
Gene
like-
Miller Street.
Can I just want to point out one thing.
Absolutely.
So, my name's Jeff Rakes, and so when she refers to the consultants, Denny and I, that have been kind of going through this, I think this is interesting, having worked with planning commissions. I mean, my favorite question that you guys posed is, where's the front of the building? So, this is happening a lot with these smaller sort of, like Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks sort of stuff in these suburban locations surrounded by parking. It's like, where's the front? Where's the front door of the building, and how should it be oriented? It's just interesting to hear you guys. I'm glad you noticed, because for us as planners, we're thinking about ways to have a relationship between the building and the street, and in this case, the parking lot. But I agree, Mackenzie's assessment is absolutely correct. I think the front of the building is on the bottom half of the southern part of this drawing, and they'll have the front door there. But it is weird. It's almost like it's exposing the back of the building to where the sidewalks are, right? So how would you get there? So it's very. This is a suburban sort of model, and developers often, you guys have seen this. They'll come in and this is their model. You know, this is what we get.
Well, so much of this too, I don't expect that, in reality, they probably don't expect a whole lot of people to walk in.
True.
Everybody's using
Everybody's
everybody's using the drive-ins now or drive-throughs. All you have to do is look at Chick-fil-A right around lunchtime out here or something. So
But to the whole right there is all residential.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's potential.
Big potential.
The problem
All right.
with this is they tried to squeeze too many pigs in a poke.
Well, of course. We used to call it 5 pounds in a bag, right? It's, 10 to 5 pound bag, right? Okay, let's move on. The next item is item 5 of the agenda.
Yeah, so number 5 on your agenda is for the Leidy subdivision. Typically, we do not review these types of subdivisions at the meeting. However, we did have a couple of concerns with this subdivision that were kind of atypical, so we did want to put it in front of the board and just get some opinions on it. This is located off Piney Creek Road in Woodbury Township. The proposed subdivision is 3 existing parcels. They'll be reconfigured into 4 parcels to coincide with the last will and testament of the property owner. Existing Lot 1 will be enlarged to become Lot 1R, which will be 35.627 acres. Contains an existing single-family dwelling, on-lot sewage system and well. Future use is indicated as residential and recreational. Proposed Lot 4, which is 15.7807 acres, contains, it says the current and future use is agricultural. Lot number 5, which is 34.267 acres, includes 2 parts which are not contiguous, which is going to be the problem here. This is the aerial view of the property. These are how the parcels are divided. I kind of split them up by color. This is lot 5 here in red. This is the parcel that it's referring to that is being included as part of lot 5. This is a different parcel altogether here in yellow. This parcel here in blue, and then this parcel here in black. So the concerns were mainly with the lot being this red parcel here and this red parcel here not being 2 separate lots, and then just using an access road, obviously, to access Piney Creek Road here, rather than fronting on a road. Additionally, the additional comments that were included say that the proposed subdivision and lot merge do not alter the existing physical characteristics of the subject land based on the uses indicated in the narrative submitted with the plan. If true, the subdivision will not impact the immediate or surrounding existing land use, landscape, environment, or transportation network. The separation of Lot 5 into 2 parts, however, was noted as unusual. The larger plot has the notation proposed lot 5. The smaller part has the location part of or PO proposed lot 5, which our developers pointed out, or our consultants pointed out, does not seem sufficient for what's happening here with this subdivision. Additionally, they noted that the non-build waiver, the DEP non-build waiver that was submitted with the plan, the form did not indicate the lot numbers for the non-building lots. So for clarity, the form could not be signed on our end because it was not sufficiently filled out on their end. And they specify that only subdivision plan sheet 1 of 2 was attached to the waiver submitted to Blair Planning. Sheet 1 includes a non-building notation but does not give or does not plot the 4 proposed lots. Sheet 2, which plots 4 lots, should be included with the waiver form, which is why we... Oh, additional comments, I'm so sorry. The additional comment was that the odd configuration of the proposed lots, the 20-foot due to the odd configuration of the proposed lots, the 20-foot easement serving the largest part of lot 5, which is this dotted line that you can see here, that comes off Piney Creek Road. The non-building waiver and the township would do well to help the subdivider and future landowners understand that subdividing the land like this would affect the limited usability of the lot in the future and what potential things can be done
Did they
down
make,
the road.
did they make any comment on why they just didn't enlarge the lot in red, the big lot in red, to include the acreage equivalent to that little space, and then just...
There's an existing outbuilding or a house or
Oh, okay.
something that's on this parcel here.
Okay, all right, so it doesn't, yeah. It just seemed like it would make sense to add that to the one right below it, but maybe not, if it's already something on it, no.
Yeah, so our recommendations were essentially just to revisit the subdivision and make sure that it is, like was mentioned in the letter, going to be good for future use for the property, so that future property owners would not have access or not have issues with having this be part of their lot down here if they sold off this land and they owned this. This is lot 5, this proposed I can't even read it from here, 34.267 acres here, and then this additional part that it does not have any, it's not included in the letter that what the acreage is here, but that is included as that part of the parcel. This is the, so this is the small part of the parcel here, which is like this is that house, and then the rest of the parcel is just is wooded area down here.
If there are no further questions, I have a motion to approve.
Well, I definitely have an issue with that. You can't create a landlocked parcel.
Yes.
So, they're going to either have to make that a flag lot, or they're going to have some sort of legal agreement that this roadway becomes public.
I agree with Nick.
Aren't all these aren't there other landlocked properties here, and here? I mean, do all
Well,
those?
if they're already in existence, we can't address it. But they're creating that. So we can't address it now.
I think that by law, you have to have right of way to your property, right? No matter
Well,
what.
that's the issue. That is the issue, because this does not have public right-of-way.
That road exists, is that
It
correct?
exists, but is
Part of it
public?
does exist
Does
currently.
it need
It
to be
exists,
public?
I think, right here.
Yes, I think it has to be public.
It can't be a private road.
Well, it can be a private road, but there has to be a legal instrument in place. Like, you would have to actually make this like a flag lot, either through deed or by easement?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, why wouldn't that, can we require them to separate that road out as a property or right of way to the Piney Creek Road? I mean, would that be a suggestion we should make?
Well,
I mean, it seems to me like, here's this big giant lot and, this, maybe they all know each other and have some kind of verbal agreement, but there can be legal issues with that. All of a sudden this guy's always crossing over the road. That like blocks, that severs that property into two.
that's always what happens. It's not the people that do it originally, it's the follow-on generation. So, yeah, I have no problem with it, but would the recommendation be that they consider either they need a legal document creating that access as a public road, or they need they need to create a flag lot out of it? Does that make that recommendation in the letter? Are there any other corrections or additions?
That and they need to fix the 537.
Sewage?
No, the
The non-building waiver.
yeah, the non-build waiver, we can't sign it as it was submitted to us because it does not include the correct information.
Okay.
So they just need to submit us a new waiver.
All right, so I guess the motion is to accept the staff recommendations with the additions of the access road and the arrival of proper paperwork for 537. Is that correct? Is that what you want the motion to be? Sure. Okay. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 6 is those items which generally just are staff reviews.
Oh no.
You had a bunch.
These are not the right ones. The ones on your agenda are correct. The ones that are up here are not correct. I don't know what happened. Yeah, the ones that are on your agenda are correct. The ones that are up here are old. They are not
Yeah,
correct.
from last month before.
Yeah, well, that's what happens with.
I apologize.
No, that's the cut and paste technology
No, you're absolutely right.
of Word.
You're absolutely right. I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. That's
It's
terrible.
Exactly the way it happened.
Yeah, the ones that are in your agenda are correct. Those are the ones that have been sent out to you through email this month. There are not many. There were just the one, Ryan and Hess lot merge on Woods Lane in Antis Township. Minor subdivision on Riggles Gap Road in Antis Township, Dilling lot line change on Dilling Drive in Woodbury Township, and the Over Farm manure shed on Patience Place Lane in Woodbury Township. Those are the 4 minor reviews that were done this month. I'm so sorry.
Are there any questions on those 4?
Okay.
And not the ones up on the
Yes,
agenda?
not the ones on the screen.
Can I have a motion, if there are no questions, or anyway, can I have a motion to approve the staff actions for item 6 of the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, if there are no further questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Moving ahead.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Number 7 is also the old information as well, but the ones in your agenda, I promise this is the last one. The ones in your agenda are correct, and I will read those as well. Those were for the County of Blair for Penvest Emerging Contaminants in Small Disadvantaged Communities Grant Program. That was for the PA and DEP application for that. The City of Altoona UPMC Air Quality State Only Operating Permit Renewal. City of Altoona Lucknow High Spire Terminals Title V Air Quality Operating Permit Renewal. Duncansville Borough, which is Eads Group, for Duncansville Borough Municipal Authority Sewage Treatment Plant and PDES permit renewal. Tyrone Borough Eads Group for People's Natural Gas LLC Hamilton Avenue Replacement Project. That's the DEP general permit application. Allegheny Township Sunoco Pipeline Hollidaysburg Pump Station. That is a DEP air quality state only operating permit renewal application. Antis Township is SWCA Environmental Consultants for SR1 Captura Sage Holdco. Blair Frito Solar Development, that is PADEP Chapter 102 permit development. We will be seeing that next month as a land development. That's for a new solar farm in, where did I just say? Antis Township. Annis Township, Apex Company for Blair County Humane Society, facility expansion, that's a Chapter 102 development permit. Juniata Township, LPR, LLC, Hodge Unit, Drilling Pad Number 1, Notice of Intent for the Susquehanna River Basin Commission for consumptive use of water for drilling and development of natural gas wells. And North Woodbury Township, Scotch Hills Solutions for Culp Family Dairy, LLC, and F. Culp Limited Partnership. That is the construction of agricultural buildings. That is a Chapter 102 land development permit. I am so sorry once again, but those are that's number 7 on your agenda, and they are consistent with what is in your agenda, not what's up here on the PowerPoint.
All right, well, these then are basically things that are sent to us by email. Basically, they're most of them appear to be for permit renewals or permit applications. And basically said we've seen them. And so if there are no questions on any of these, I'll entertain a motion to approve the staff actions for item 7 of the agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, if there are no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Moving ahead, this is Dave, is that you? Dave?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll let Mackenzie do it.
Okay. Well,
And she's frantically pointing at me.
okay.
So, APA publishes a trends report. Sounds like they're going to start trying to do this annually. Thought it would be a good idea to, since they officially released it yesterday. Excuse me, it's still going to tickle my throat. Thought it would be a good idea to go over it so we have an idea what's going on nationally and how it might impact us locally. There's a number of major areas that we can look at. The report itself is, it was emailed to you yesterday, and the hard copy I wanted to bring along. It's sitting on my dining room table right now because we didn't have water and then my car didn't want to start this morning. So.
You have a good morning.
I'm not supposed to be here today. I don't think. It certainly didn't feel like it. So, you can flip the slide. Next, the big trend, the top one that they like to always go over is what's going on with households and housing. Population growth in the United States nationwide is slowing. They're expecting less than a 10% increase by the year 2100. So, believe it or not, a quarter of the way through this century already. It just feels like yesterday we're absolutely positive everything's going to be shutting down because of Y2K, and here we are 25 years later. But only 9.7% projected growth in the next 75 years nationwide. The trend continues. The Northeast and Midwest are losing population to the benefit of the South and the West gaining population. They expect that's going to continue. Very interestingly, traditional family households are now less than 20% of the total, and that's the mom pop, little boy, little girl type setup where it's the old style traditional family that way. They represent less than 20% of all the households in the United States at this point. Since 2020, so basically over the last 5 years, the amount of money needed to run your household every year has increased by $47,000. That's not, it costs you $47,000 a year to run your house. It's increased $47,000 to run your house on average nationwide. So yes, it is costing us more to live. That is having an impact on quite a number of things, most notably housing. Some of that is housing insurance. Some of that is simply the cost of housing. Some of it is utility costs. So that's your housing needs numbers, but then it impacts other things like what kind of car can you buy, what can you run in your car, what are you able to buy, what's your discretionary income like, what are you able to save, how much are you depending on a credit card or other kind of borrowed money to live. So it has an impact outside of just housing, and that's all housing needs. That's not necessarily somebody who owns an acre out in suburbia. This is everybody across the board, whether it's a studio type apartment in in the middle of a city, all the way out to your sprawling estate out in the countryside. That is the average. The last two are also coming into play here. Right now, we are very keenly aware of the wildfire issue that's been going on out in the west and the hurricane issue that's been hitting the southeast. 37% of the U.S. population now live in a high hazard vulnerability area. That could be a coastal area, that could be an area subject to fire, that could be an area subject to earthquake, that could be an area subject to hurricane. But 34% of us, 1/3 of us, now live in a high hazard vulnerability area, and that translates into a major increase in uninsurable properties and entire neighborhoods that are now uninsurable. If you're familiar with the mortgage program in the United States, you don't get insurance, you don't get a mortgage, you don't get a mortgage, most people aren't going to buy a house. So again, it's putting people out of housing, or at least out of home ownership, because of our high hazard vulnerability tendencies. We all like to live on the water. We all like to live where it's warm. We all like to live in these areas where, unfortunately, what makes it nice to live there also makes the hazards like to be there as well. So that's what we're looking at.
I think that population growth figure is going to be proven to be very wrong in the near future. Given the current administration, it's just going to be wrong.
I'm not even worried about the current administration. I think it's,
I know
I think there's going to be other
that's the
issues.
trend so far.
Yeah. Next area of trend is the recognition and the change in what's called third places. Your first place is your house, your domicile, where you basically live. Your second place is where you work. That's the workplace. The third place is where you recreate, where you relax, where you socialize. There's an increasing demand for publicly owned third places. The traditional, you think around here you have some of those traditional cultural clubs, secret society type clubs, the International Order of Oddfellows type things, the Masons, those types. Those are on the decline. People are looking more for publicly owned type settings where it's a park, it's a recreation center, it's things along those lines, and so there's an increase for there. The Taishoku Place theory, which is we're getting away from the segregated zoning. People don't want to be car slaves anymore. They want to be able to go from their first place to their second place to their third place. It's either close enough where they can walk or bike or use transit. They don't want to have to turn a key in an ignition to get there. That is a new demand that's really taking place, particularly with the younger generations. They don't want to be sitting around all day, end up shaped like me. They want to be able to get up and get out and get about, and they don't want to have to live in Altoona, get in your car, load the bikes in the back, so you can go out to Williamsburg and get in the Lauer Trail. They want the Lauer Trail in Altoona. That's what they're looking for. So that's that place theory. That's a newer theory that's been out for 2 or 3 years now. I think it was published in 2022. But it's an interesting thing. What was being looked at, the reason it's Japanese words, they were looking in and around, particularly Tokyo, but other Japanese cities, and what's making certain things thrive and what was making certain things start to stagnate. What they were finding was the areas in that country that were starting to model themselves in a U.S. development model were stagnating because they were separating things out and people were having to drive. It's not easy to drive over there, but where you had robust transit, where you could get in and you had things within walking distance and biking distance, those places were thriving. And they started looking around the different places in the world even, and the theory is holding true. Where you have the mixture of the three types of places, those places were thriving more so than the places that were segregating. So, very interestingly also, we looked at the households, less than 20% are traditional. More households today have pets than have children. And why is that an impact? Well, I think we've all been in stores and wondering why Fido is sitting in the cart next to us. That's an issue. But also with our third places, especially the public third places, there is a demand growing. When we put the park in, we want the park to be designed to accommodate the dog or the cat. It's just there. There's a increased pressure to allow animals into more types of stores. I don't know if you've noticed, we have a few restaurants in town now that have actually put signs up that says service dogs only. And then, like I said, there's two of them I've noticed they put parentheses that emotional support is not service dog, which is true. And they're basically starting to help people know we don't want your animal in here. We're a restaurant. We don't need that fur flying around. Again, I can agree with that stance. There's a place for your pet, but restaurant's probably not it. So but there's a demand in society to start accommodating the pet needs. And that's shown here, the dog park development, 40% increase in the last decade. So, and it's also something that's being in demand. There's actual changes to subdivision ordinances in the South and the Southwest, where we used to set aside parcels, say for stormwater or for maybe a little parklet or something like that. Now they want space set aside in subdivisions for dogs. And it's a demand on the development. It's an increased cost because it's land that's taken out from being saleable for the developer to something that needs to be set aside almost as an impact fee, and he's not making money off of that. So what he's losing there, he has to push onto the other housing, which bumps that cost up. So those are impacts we're looking at. Flip the slide. Water, our water regulation in this country is very severely outdated. There's been a concept out for just over a decade now called One Water, which basically takes all our current water regulation. I won't say it throws it out the window, but it certainly takes it behind a curtain and comes out looking totally different. Stormwater is one thing, flooding is another thing, water treatment, wastewater treatment. When it comes right down to it, it's all water. And there's a trend now to recognize that and get rid of these silos that are within just that one topic area and create a sort of a super regulatory, what I want to call it, a unified, that's a better word for it, unified regulatory scheme that covers all areas of water. Because what's been happening is we got the people in the stormwater silo writing regulation this way, and say people in the floodplain silo writing regulation the other way, and it's either leaving gaps or they're conflicting, and it's making it so you can't do anything. So that's coming along. Water availability is becoming a big issue, and it's surprisingly more noticeable in the crop growing areas in the Midwest, even this area. Our overall average rainfall is decreasing, and it's putting a strain on the groundwater. And because it's putting a strain on the groundwater and everything's decreasing, it's starting to put a strain on the crops. That has long-term implications for development patterns as well as whether or not we're going to be able to feed everybody. So that's an emerging trend they're just picking up on. The changing weather patterns from the water currents that are in the oceans, the Gulf Stream. There was one study done over in Europe that is showing that it possibly could just all of a sudden catastrophically collapse by the middle of this century, which would completely change our weather and would tend to freeze Europe, completely change everything over there. So as a result of both of those, they're saying about 80% of our food-producing regions could be at risk within the next 25 years. And then these last three are impacting our water availability. Data center water needs for cooling, the amount of water that they are requiring just to keep them cool, and that's even outside of the power needs, which is the next one. But just the water needs for the data centers is huge, and then you add in the increased water needs to power those things, and we're diverting a lot of water just so we can run our smartphones and run the internet. And I think it might have been Mackenzie. I was telling somebody yesterday that people are starting to realize that we always hear don't do this, be eco-friendly and use the internet, but when you start looking at this kind of thing, this is renewable, and electricity is really not when you look at where it's coming from. So which is really more the eco-friendly medium. It might be the paper in your hand, not the internet. But we have some major issues coming with water in the next quarter century that are going to have to be addressed. Next. In the workplace, we're seeing an increased blurring of the line between work and leisure. Very, very recent trends, like in the last half year, it seems to be that might be backing off a little bit. Yeah, but we're definitely the last week. But the line between work and leisure has been blurring for the last 5 years. APA, with this study at least, is expecting that to continue, just because they're expecting that the younger generations are basically pushing for that, and they're demanding that as part of their work experience. Right along with that, alternate work week patterns, a 4-day work week, whether it's 40 hours over 4 days, or we cut the work week back and it's 8 hours over 4 days, and we just simply have less working hours. 80 hours over 9 days instead of the usual 10 days. The different work at home situations where you telecommute on a regular basis, telecommute as necessary. You have a health issue or doctor's appointment in the middle of the day, and you're just going to work at home for it. Those types of things where we're changing our work patterns, and it's having an impact on our local economy because people aren't in the office, and the office areas that used to have the what I call the office support areas around it, the restaurants and the little places of entertainment for afterwards and all like that, are having trouble surviving because the people simply aren't there to support them anymore. And because we don't have so many people in the offices, especially in the big cities, we have a lot of vacant buildings that are cropping up. And then this commercial, again, the commercial area around the office area is also going vacant. Now that does give us some reuse options. Even here in a couple of our comprehensive planning efforts over the last 10, 15 years, recognizing that we have some old commercial buildings that are standing vacant and it's not as likely that they're going to be reused as commercial. Can we look at those in a new way and maybe get some kind of residential into them? When you're talking the big box stuff, it's difficult because you don't get a lot of air through there, a lot of light through there. It's hard to put windows in and give people the outside experience. But is there a way we can reuse some of our commercial areas as housing?
Well, it's interesting. Despite all of the empty commercial spaces in our immediate area, developers still want to build more.
Yeah, they'd rather have the new than the old.
Yep.
Yeah. Probably because it's cheaper to tear down and build than it is to remodel. But
Yeah, that's been evident when you start to see some of the buildings that they've torn down just to put something else in its place. They've not been that old, they've been 10 years old or something that they're going to tear it down. But even the one I'm thinking out there that's really evident was they tore down an existing building to put the Chick-fil-A in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that happened.
well, how many McDonald's have they torn down to put a McDonald's in?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Perfectly good building, but it's just time for a new one. The other thing with the workplace that was interesting is usually, historically, if you ask somebody, kind of what your self-identity was, you'd say, "Oh, I'm an electrician, I'm a doctor, I'm a planner." Who says that? But people don't identify themselves like that anymore. They're identifying themselves in different ways. And it's lessening the role, the impact, the importance, the feeling of need within the workplace. Yeah, work is just something else I do, but it's not really what I am anymore. And that's that next thing. Our leisure projects and our hobbies are replacing work as our primary focus. And then this last one was interesting. When they released this yesterday, they mentioned this working through retirement. For the first time in history, the United States workforce spans 6 generations. The youngest members of the silent generation, which are the ones that are the next generation older than the boomers. Then we have the boomers, then we have Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. The oldest Gen Alphas are now in the workplace. So we have 6 generations in the workforce now. It's changing how we relate and how we have to accommodate everybody, because the expectations between a silent generation, which would be people my mother's age in their early 80s, and a Gen Alpha who's just in their teenage years coming into the workforce, are totally different. Now, some of that definition I take with a grain of salt, because we've shortened the span of what a generation is. Generation used to be 20 years. It seems like now it's 12 to 15. So that kind of changes things a little bit in terms of the definition. But we're defining generation as we're now societally defining it. We've got 6 generations that we've defined, and all 6 are now in the workforce, at least by APA's data. Right along with the workforce, there's this expectation we all carry phones around with us and all the time, connected all the time. It's creating digital fatigue, and there's a lot that goes along with that. These are the bigger points on it. We definitely have blurred concepts of reality. What is real, what is not. We've all seen the deep fakes, the different things created by AI, the different things that are, they seem real. The wildfires, the one I'm thinking of right now, the Hollywood sign burned 3-4 weeks ago. There were pictures all over the place that the Hollywood sign is on fire, it burned down, and it was all fake. And it's because the way we do it with this digital stuff, you can make anything look like anything. So, but what's happening there is, okay, yeah, I recognize that, but if I have my worldview shaped in a certain way, and this feeds in my worldview, well, that one's not fake, but this one over here is, because I happen to disagree with that point of view. And it's really messing things up, and then it's spreading the distrust and the deception that's going around. Social media, it's addictive. We look at it, they've now proven that it does the same thing to the brain that certain drugs do for the validation, and we need to unplug ourselves from it. And there is a right to disconnect push. There are areas now that have passed laws that you have a right to be disconnected. The certain employers expect you to be on call all the time and have your phone on, and if the boss calls you at 2 in the morning, you're expected to answer the phone and do whatever, whatever the phone calls for. So we now have, in support of well-being, right to disconnect laws getting passed.
Also, the high speed of social media means people have less ability to concentrate on singular issues. They go blip, 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 jumps, jump. And that's true with, I know my grandchildren are like that.
Yeah.
But to smack them.
Well, that's the bottom point here. But it's the same idea. It comes at you so fast they can't digest it. But because we think we have everything at our fingertips, we're not using our brains anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to remember things. Oh, why should I bother remembering something? I can just look it up. What is the capital of South Dakota? Thank you, but yeah. You don't have to worry about it. You just look it up. I was joking with my wife the other day on that exact topic. We just started naming states and throwing cities out. And I was actually impressed. All my boys are able to hit all 50 states. So maybe it was a group effort, but we got through it. But my niece probably wouldn't be able to do it. And she's more on social media than others. We have the impact on the children and the young adults. Again, the preceding dots really impact their concept of reality, and again, the addiction that's coming along with it. So we got to look at what the impact of all this digital technology is on us. Alternate energy, because of some of these data centers and the charging cars and things like that, there is a spiked interest in renewable energy. We are seeing it here. 15, 20 years ago, we had all the windmills getting put in. Now we're getting all the solar put in. So that's coming along. However, it's not coming along fast enough, and we still have a resurgence of what I'll call the traditional energy, the fossil fuel-based energy. However, with the newer energy, it's requiring a different type of material, and they're saying the raw material demand will quadruple in the next 15 years. And that's mostly mining of some precious and rare earth minerals, things that, yeah, the lithiums. That was the one that came out most because it has the most attention right now. But there's other rare and unusual metals that get used in some of our newer technologies and our newer ways of producing energy. We have to find it, we have to develop it, and we got to find a way to dispose of it when we're done. And that's that third point there is there are practical ways to dispose of them, and there are good ways to dispose of them, but there's none that are practical and good. And what are we doing? Nuclear power has been out for longer than I've been alive. I'm in my mid-50s. We still don't have a good place to put our nuclear waste. And
The American view of nuclear power is very different from that of
the
Europe.
rest of the world, yeah.
Over the rest of the world creates small units by a singular design. Americans think engineers can do everything, and the bigger the better.
Right.
And the result is shown on the number of nuclear power plants. And they've all had the same problem, and it was predicted before it started. No backup water system was ever tested, and they've all failed for the same reason.
Other issue with mining is a lot of these metals are in areas where there are whatever disadvantage there is, but they're disadvantaged areas. Disadvantage doesn't necessarily just mean poor. It could be people who are disconnected, who are just that rural, or just don't have the political clout to be able to say no when the big mining companies come in. As a result, we need to either increase our efficiency or reduce our reliance on energy. It'll probably be a combination of both. The other side they're seeing here is we need to reduce personal transportation for the large en masse movements, identify where people are coming from and where they're going to, and find an alternate way of getting them there, whether it's simply putting a bus line in or if we have to build rail or something along those lines. But we're thinking, fossil fuels, we'll just switch our cars over to electric, but we're showing that the electric now is just as bad as the fossil fuels. We need to get away from personal transportation. And then just flip this one I just put in just for the entertainment value of it. But they actually call it the mushroom-preneur industry. This is a new trend we may start seeing here because we are actually a targeted area. We are an area that can actually grow mushrooms. It's becoming a very, very, very large industry. It's got many multiple benefits. We have the health benefits. They're finding that certain ways of doing mushrooms and other fungi actually will help lower cholesterol and speed up the healing and the quality of healing when you do organ transplants. It actually helps the body accept the organ transplant. So they're growing mushrooms to help.
Pennsylvania always was.
Yeah, we're big on
down
mushrooms.
around Chester.
Yeah.
That was the largest mushroom producing area in the whole country.
So, but yeah, nationally, we are right in the middle of a big mushroom region, ecologically. Mushrooms, we were just talking about energy. Mushrooms can produce an alternate fuel, and they help with plastic pollution and micropollutants. So, we need to, we mentioned the strain on our food systems a couple slides back. Some of this fungus can help us transition over to a sustainable food system. But this last dot really got me. This industry was nothing 5 years ago, and it's expected to triple again by 2035. That's 10 years from now. So they're expecting it to become this huge, huge thing. So if you've got money you don't know what to do with, this might be a place to sink it. Yeah. So, and that's about it. I don't know if we want to, something triggered you and you want to talk about it, or we just want to digest it and move on. That's fine too. But I just found the trends to be interesting because a lot of that is overlapping. We're seeing it locally. Where we are, we tend to think we're a little isolated, or the old saying, it's easy to plan here because all you have to look at what everybody else was doing 20 years ago. We're right in with that on some of this stuff, and it's not so true anymore. So,
I had something to talk about water that happened to me this summer. My wife got involved with a church group that was doing some kind of like ecological, climate change presentations. Like they would give each week there was some kind of a different presentation on, some kind of slideshow or something. But one day we had a tour, and I went on this tour with him. I can't remember the guy's name right now. It escapes me. His first name was Eric, and he is a guy who restores strip mines and replants them, trees and things like that. They're trying to bring the forest back into the strip mines. So there's all kinds of things that are involved in doing this. And so we went on a tour of the strip mines up here where the Cooney coal mines were, and he took us over to this place where there was a mine shaft from the 1700s, and in this mine, from this shaft, there was a huge volume of water coming out of, and this water comes out of this mine shaft continually, like 365 days a year at the same rate all the time. And they have determined that 80% of the pollution that goes into Katanning Runs comes from this particular mine shaft. Like, in other words, like where if you took Katanning Run, way up into the mountains up there where it comes together at this point is where all this pollution starts with the acid mine and the heavy metals. Above that is like mountain, trout stream with fresh water. So if they could deal with this system, would deal with this polluted water going into the Katanning Run, they could increase the fresh water supply. So there's a couple things they could do. One is they could build a big water filtration plant down by the Horseshoe Curve, which would filter the water out. It would be very expensive, and also you'd have to deal with the storm water and everything on top of that. Another thing they could do is to build, settling ponds, up in the mountains, but there's a couple of issues with that. One is, like, first of all, there's no really flat ground to build these settling ponds. And the other thing is, when the water's sitting out, for weeks and weeks and months, years at a time, it heats up, and then it ruins the aquifer, ruins the ecology for the fish. So he said that there's a plan to build a filtration plant right on the site in the strip mines where this water is coming out of the ground. Right there, they can build a filtration plant, where the water is treated immediately when it comes out of the ground. Maybe it lose a couple of degrees of temperature and can go back into Katanning Run at that point. And apparently there is money for this particular. It's in the Biden infrastructure plan, or whatever that infrastructure plan was. There is money set aside for this filtration plant at this point. And I have to verify all this. He was talking what this guy told us. And if they build this plant there, Altoona and our region would never have to worry about drought conditions ever again. We would have so much clean water coming into our reservoirs, that it would stop, that issue. The other thing I wanted to talk about was we talked about reuse of buildings. Like, is there anybody talking about what we're doing with all these vacant malls now? Is there any discussion of that?
That's
Turn
part
on
of,
the casinos.
they're talking about turning them into,
Casinos.
Bicycle racing.
it reminded me, it was a book first. There was a movie back in the 70s called Logan's Run, where everybody lived inside. They're talking about creating Logan's Run communities.
Wow.
You put the residents on the outside so they get the windows, or on the top floor so you get the skylights. And then on the inside of that, you would have, because it would support itself, you'd have some boutique type shops and maybe small food, grocery type shops and all like that. And then the main part of the mall would still be kind of like the main street. But yeah, there's all sorts of talks, and that's just one model. But said, are they going to kill everybody at age 30 still?
Yeah.
That was the big part of that movie. But yeah, but there has been talk. They said the big problem with that, and we ran into that talking about, I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, before Burlington Coat Factory went in there, they were talking about putting housing in the old Toys R Us, and they said there's no windows. You can't put people in where there's no windows. The old, I think it's a car dealership over by the Elizabeth, it was the same issue. They were talking about putting housing in there. The building was too big, couldn't get any kind of air or light into the interior of the building. So there are those type of issues where the commercial buildings are that big that you can't easily do anything with them. I'm sure you could retrofit and get skylights and air moving through. I mean, if you look at what they did at the old steel mills in Bethlehem, huge buildings, and they built entire neighborhoods inside these buildings.
Oh.
And there's no natural air and light that actually flows from the outside, but you have air and light that flow within the building.
Mm.
Very interesting. And yeah, but they literally built stick-built buildings inside the old steel mills. And yeah, it's kind of an interesting reuse, and apparently it was the place to be.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on, this is a discussion we can carry on later. But, yeah, you'd like that. There's one on a show called, it's on a channel called AEW or something like that. You Live in What? Have you seen that thing? Yeah, that was really like, you'd like that one. It's adaptive reuse of everything from guys living in water silos, old barns, converting them into residential properties.
It's a TV show.
Yeah, it's really kind of an interesting show. I mean, because there's some innovative people out there who really come up with some strange. The one they were talking about was one of the main buildings in Dallas, where it's an old office building, a bank, and that they've converted into high-end residence. And it's kind of there's some guy living he converted the county jail in Salem, Massachusetts into it's luxury apartments is what he's converted it into. So, but it's an interesting thing. But it's the same type of adaptive reuse of what you do with some of these old buildings. But that's okay. Moving on. Let's see if we can wrap this up a little bit. Coordination and Walkworks, is that
me.
you?
Yeah.
You
So
again.
number 9
man.
on your agenda. I
It's
don't
the
need any.
Mackenzie show.
I don't need any action on this. Just a brief update for you and an invitation. So we are partnering, as I've told you before, we're partnering with the AmeriCorps volunteer who's with Altoona Family Physicians. Her goal is community health, or she's working on community health initiatives. And the fundraiser that she's working on is a Glow Walk fundraiser for Family Services Incorporated here in Blair County. And we've partnered with them to make it our kickoff Walkworks event for the spring. So you are more than welcome. I will send out some invitations through email. But we have partnered with Lakemont Park to use their Lakemont route, which is one of our really nice Walkworks routes. But it's going to be May 10th. And it's free to attend, and it's going to be, we're having food vendors and community vendors and games and prizes, and also a walk fundraiser that is, again, raising money for Blair Family Services. But yeah, it's been a lot of interesting. I've learned a lot about community health by partnering with our friends at Altoona Family Physicians and working with Zoria, who she was at our holiday social. So I think it's a really beneficial partnership. We are working hard to put this together for you, and I would love to see some of you guys there. But like I said, it's May 10th. I will send out some invitations to your email and some other information so that you have it closer to the event. But yeah, that's kind of what we've been working on with WalkWorks to get that kicked off for the spring.
Okay. So that's gonna happen. Okay. Moving ahead. Item 10. Rhonda, is that you?
Item 10 is the Fort Roberdeau contract. We just need a authorization to sign it.
Okay.
That'll, instead of coming down to October and scrambling for it, we'll get it out of the way now.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the staff actions for item 10 of the agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, approved. Okay. Dave, I guess this is you. You are planning this, and Wes. Wes.
This is a resolution giving Dave the authorization
Yeah.
to sign the annual agreement that supports the work of the environmental department and organization. And all the subsequent documents we got to do to get it processed.
Okay. Okay, so that's also all we need. Do I have a motion to approve the director and proper official signing the Unified Planning Workshop, our work program,
And all the other documents.
and all the
related.
other documents associated with it? So I have a second.
Second.
Are there any questions for Wes while we got him here? He doesn't really show up at these things.
He's been here the last number
A
of
couple
times.
times. I guess. Yeah, he's been here the last couple times.
Actually, probably 6 or 7.
Too quiet back there.
Get your seat up here, Wes.
Anything? Any questions for Wes? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Dave?
I don't have too much today.
What?
We are looking at a partnership with Healthy Blair County Coalition to sponsor I forget the name of the day. It's a food day where they're going to have a summit where people are going to come together and talk about the food system deficiencies within the county. They'd like us to partner with them with a sponsorship, which is we're heavily involved with the Food for Life community anyway. So it would be a sponsorship of $500 on that, which I actually do set that aside to support HBCC. We put a couple thousand aside a year for that. So we should probably get a vote on that maybe. I should have put it on as a separate item. Now I'm thinking about it. To support the sponsorship for the Food for Life community.
So you want a motion to, what's your motion going to be? To approve?
To support a
Support
sponsorship for the Food for Life Summit
to the amount of $500.
in an amount of $500.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now, I had a question on Dave. We're been changing some things around a little bit. One was how we're making the appointments.
Mhm.
That's in progress, right?
Mhm.
That's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Second thing is we sent out the new bills for membership. I guess there's been some kickback.
Yeah, we've got a few that sent, when we sent the invoices out, we probably shouldn't have done it this way, but we sent out an invoice for the per capita part, and then we put there was a line item for the per capita part and a line item for the equal assessment part. And we've gotten a couple pushing back that they only want to pay the per capita part.
Well,
And when I went back and reviewed our founding documents, it has to be equally assessed. And my understanding is it's basically all or nothing.
so that we need to send that. We need to address that and tell these people that.
Right.
The other thing that impacts, and what I think most people don't realize, is that, again, because of changeovers with supervisors and things like that, they're not sure exactly what all they get from us, other than when they call us for a question. The answer for me is, if you don't pay that fee, you get nothing. Absolutely nothing from this program. And we'll have a separate fee structure to charge you for any work you do want done. So that's what I think, that's the bottom line. That also impacts your MPO membership and your highway, your liquid fuels money that you would get. So everybody needs to recognize this. That you're kind of spiting yourself to do something to try and save $500 or $1,000. So I think, Dave, we need to get those letters out to tell these people that. We also need to establish that fee structure, that if you're not a member of the board of this organization,
That's established.
this is what it's going to cost you.
That's done.
Okay, so we need that needs to be done.
That's done.
And I get frustrated. I really do. I mean, it's
And right along with that, not directly related to it, but ancillarily, we are getting ready to do the municipal outreach. It's that time of year where we go around to everybody. We want to do it regionally this time. We used to hit each one individually and trying to get 26 separate appointments set up. We were stretching, I think the one year we stretched into July with it. So we're going to try to get this down to maybe 8 or 9. And as we do each region, I'd like, now that we are regionally represented on the board, I will be letting each of the members know when it gets to your region that it's, this is when
Your
we're
turn.
meeting, and I'd like for you to be able to go along. Obviously, if there's going to be a conflict, there might be a conflict, but if we can get everybody to get out there and get along, they'll say it's not just the Dave show, that there's actually commission members behind this.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so we'll do that. I did get a phone call, it surprised me. When I was out sick, there was a voicemail left wondering if we're going to move the meetings around again. We did that about 10 years ago. It did not seem to go over very well from our perspective, but I guess there were a few in the municipal arena that thought it was a good idea, even though they didn't show up. So, something to think about for next year. We already have our stuff advertised
for this
year.
monthly, for the monthly.
For this meeting, yeah.
Yeah, we did this.
It's like 15 or 16 we did.
Yeah,
No, it might have been earlier than that. It might have been 14.
Evening meetings?
well, it was part. Well,
No, we went around to each municipality and held this meeting at the different municipalities. I think we did it by region.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I remember we were sitting in Annis Township. We were in Blair Township. We were, I forget the different, but for the most part, we were in municipal buildings. There are a couple exceptions, but we're pretty much in municipal buildings.
I think one of the things that happened with this meeting and evening meetings, there was people who had problems that they wanted their evenings free, and basically we don't have. And I think it's unfortunate we don't have anybody except Ben who's working professionally or working at a job where this 8:30 meeting is a problem. And so the meeting was moved to this time mainly because that's what most of the members at that time wanted. They didn't want their evenings free. So I have no problem one way or the other where it goes or what time we meet. Just we're trying to be convenient for as many people as we can be, and so it's whatever everybody wants.
The meetings for this year are set.
So
We
we're
already
set for this
advertised
year.
them. So yeah, but
So
this will be something we can chew on and think about for next year. But, it's just interesting that this phone call came out of the blue. Yeah, you guys used to go around and meet at the different municipalities. Why don't you do that anymore? We did that for 1 year, and it didn't seem like anybody really cared. So
Yeah,
we stopped doing it.
nobody showed up
I don't really
Mileage
see
alone
the
would kill
benefit.
us.
It was
Well-
to basically get it,
It's
to
not
get,
conducive.
Show the flag.
show the flag and then get us out into the community.
Well,
See, that's
you
one
can
of
get out in the community all you want, but it doesn't seem like the community's really taking an interest.
Right, and that was the
Because we
issue.
have, projects that come through here all the time, they don't give us all the information. You know, and then when you ask for the information, they give you a hard time. You know, so, I mean, when you have developers and stuff that wanna do stuff, why aren't they coming in here and explaining their project? You know, why do they have to have McKinsey? You know,
That's so true, I agree.
you know, and then you have a restaurant that has a drive-through, but nobody knows what the restaurant is.
Right.
You know, and then now you want to go around to the communities and sit there in an empty room and nobody shows up. They're not showing up here. Why would they show up there?
Well, the hope was that if it was in your municipality and you had an issue, you would show up, but that doesn't necessarily.
No, and it didn't work.
And that's one of the problems, I think, one
Well,
of the
if they
problems.
have an issue, why aren't they showing up here?
They
One of
don't
the
even
problems
think-
we've had too is no matter how much we seem to push out there about what we're doing and what we do, and it's partly because they don't show up at things, is a lot of elected officials don't know what we do. And don't have a good feel for the things that, that they get done that maybe aren't
Well,
on the.
Unfortunately, most of the elected officials don't care what we do. Because most of them say that, we only make recommendations. They don't take our service as valuable.
Well, the problem is, and we ran into this one thing, we ran into this before, and we finally got it straightened out, and I hope we've got it straightened out with the contractor's office again.
The recorder's office. Yeah.
Recorder's office. That if you come in with a set of plans, and you come in something, even something as these little lot splits, that everybody complains, and this is what some of the townships are complaining about. Well, you charge me, my residents, $75 for this lot split. Well, the bottom line is that if he takes it to the recorders and it doesn't have our signature on the plan, they're not supposed to approve it. Period. End of story. Go get the approvals. That's the state law. That's not us. That's one of the requirements that they're saying you must have a review by this board on some things. Now, some of them are kind of silly. I mean, one of the reasons we don't have a quick presentation every time with McKenzie on these lot splits is, okay, Joe Schmo and his brother Ben his garage is 3 feet on the other guy's property line. We got to move the property line. We don't need to hear that. We just need to move the property line.
Well, that's not.
But that's where it comes from. Some of that is.
I understand that's where it comes from.
But that's
the
some of
thing
the
of it
things.
is, you have these engineers in there. We just had one a couple months ago.
What it is
And-
Nick is spoiled. When we did planning in the city, they had to show up.
Well, it's not only
Well,
that,
we
but
got-
you have subdivisions, and they're supposed to give you a legal description with that subdivision. They don't. Do they give you a legal description?
I would say use that very loosely. They're required to give us some kind of description for the project. Sometimes that's only a sentence or two.
Well, they're actually, according to the regulations for a subdivision, they are to give you a written legal description. That legal description is what they use in the deed, because when it gets recorded out at the courthouse, it gets attached to a deed.
I would say no, we don't.
No, you don't.
I would
Because
say why
they
not.
don't, they don't value us. They just think, oh, well, I'll submit this. That takes care of the law. We need to be tougher. We need to say, you don't have the information, we're not reviewing it.
Working for the city, Nick was the bulldog in reviews. Most of the developers respected him, but didn't necessarily like him.
No, they didn't like it.
Well, I mean,
If I would have had a horse, my horse's head would have been in bed with me.
I think the issue probably is that, again, when it comes, but we're kind of down on item 14 here. We kind of skipped. We've already done Dave's 12, and we've done, and
Yeah, we
Amy
kinda
isn't here, so we're down to 14. But
Unless you're Amy today.
let's see. Are you Amy today?
No, she didn't have anything to.
Okay.
So we have
But-
114.
But it's more, we keep trying to tell people what there's some things that we're required to do that they don't realize we do. And that's, we've tried to put out all sorts of information and that. And like I said, it's, they've got a lot on their plates and they don't want to listen. You're right on that. So, okay,
One little quickie with number 12. I think everybody's aware of this, but Sherry will be back starting Monday.
What's that rubber ball sound? What's that rubber ball sound? You keep bouncing back to me. I'll keep bouncing back. That's too old for you. That's my generation, not yours. Come on, Sherry.
Very
We gotta
happy to
pick
have
like
you
that. Okay, moving right along. She's giving me the dagger look right there. Okay, moving right along. Is there any other thing? I guess we got to do 15. We got to ask what he wants.
Yeah, I got one question. Those invoices you're talking about now, are they two separate invoices you send to the
No, it's
municipalities?
one.
It's for per capita and
Yeah, that's the local share invoice, but this year we
local
split.
share.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
year we put line items on it instead of just making it one invoice. So
Yeah, we
they're picking and choosing which
What they
line
want.
item they want, and they can't do that.
we can't do that.
They only want to pay some of the line items?
Right.
Okay.
And that's the
It'd be like getting your electric bill, and you want to pay the generation
Giving them
charge,
too
but
much.
not the distribution charge.
Giving them too much information.
Yeah, it's well, yeah,
Which we wanted to do this year because it was a change. We
Yeah.
want to do it as
So
a
this is the
courtesy.
first time you've done it this way?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason is that part of it is that for years, if you do it on a per capita basis, and everybody gets the same service out of it, then the smaller municipalities get a free ride at the benefit of, say, the Logan Townships and the very big municipalities. And so it's just an attempt to try and even things out. It's not trying to do anything.
So do they have a deadline they have to pay this invoice?
Well, we're going to have to.
On the invoice itself, it's through March. By the actual agreement, it has to be paid by June 30th.
June 30th.
We're going to have to. We're going to have to be. There is going to have to be. If you decide you're going to opt out, you're not going to be a member of this board. Then there's going to have to be a fee structure for anything you do that this board does for you.
So this invoice is like 500, did you say?
No, it varies for the
Varies by
municipalities.
municipality.
Yeah.
But it still has to. One of the things that has to end up is that it does impact things like your liquid, what you get for your fuel assessment from PennDOT, whether you get highway transportation money or not, from PennDOT off the liquid fuel, off the gas tax. It impacts these things, of whether you get ordinances and things that were required review, whether we review them. If you're not a member, then you're going to have to pay a fee to do that. That's all there is to it. We can't continually give anybody a free ride. We can't do it.
That's good.
So, okay, are there any other things that? If there are no further things on the agenda, I guess we got a list of things we can go to.
Those are all correct.
They're all correct. Okay. If there's.
So your note, SCORP stands for the State Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan. They're doing a series of, they just updated it. They're doing a series of trainings on it, so we have an understanding what it says, what the purposes are behind it. So when we start applying for funding, we know how to tie it in. That's all that is.
David, is there any way we can?
Okay. If there are no,
If
if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No move. Do I have a second? We're out of here. You talk about